I never thought I'd hear the crack of a gunshot echo through my veins like a promise kept. But there it was, my father's betrayal distilled into one hollow point round that should have ended me. He'd always said I was too soft for the real world, a dreamer chasing words instead of deals. But as I lay bleeding on the cold warehouse floor in Reno, I realized the joke was on him. I'd been playing his game longer than he knew. And the punchline? It started with a 4-star general snapping a salute that made my old man choke on his scotch. Dad had mocked me for years about my useless parlor tricks, speaking 7 languages fluently, from Mandarin to Arabic, all picked up from dusty library books and late-night podcasts while he hawked shady real estate in the Nevada desert. What good's a tongue that twists like that, Maddie? He'd sneer over family dinners in our sprawling McMansion outside Vegas, his voice slurring just enough to mask the envy in his eyes. Stick to English, kid. It's the only one that pays. Mom would laugh it off, her manicured nails tapping the crystal rim of her wine glass. But I saw the cracks even then, the way his deals always teetered on the edge of legality. The late-night calls from men with gravelly voices and government plates. I was 18 when I first translated a hushed conversation for him, eavesdropping on a client from Dubai who thought the poolside shadows hid his bribes. Dad paid me $50 and a pat on the head, calling it family business. By 22, I was his secret weapon, fluent in the lexicon of lies that kept his empire afloat. But empires built on sand crumble fast, and mine started shifting the day General Harlan Thorpe walked into my life. It was a sticky July afternoon in D.C., the kind where the humidity clings like a bad conscience. And I'd been summoned to a nondescript office in the Pentagon's labyrinth, courtesy of a forged ID and a contact I'd cultivated through freelance interpreting gigs at embassies. Thorpe was all starched khakis and steel-gray eyes, the 4 stars on his shoulders gleaming like accusations. He didn't shake my hand, he saluted me. Full military honors, crisp as a fresh recruit's crease. MS. Reynolds, he said, voice like thunder rolling over the Potomac. Your work in the shadows has saved more lives than you'll ever know. Turns out, my parlor tricks had been funneled through anonymous channels, decoding chatter from Syrian warlords, unraveling cartel whispers in Juarez, feeding straight into black ops that kept the homeland secure. Dad froze when I told him later, his scotch glass hovering midair, face paling like he'd seen a ghost in his own reflection. For once, the mocker was mocked silent. That salute was my hook into something bigger. A web of favors and debts that pulled me deeper into the underbelly of American exceptionalism. Thorpe didn't just thank me, he recruited me. We need linguists who think like traitors to catch them, he growled, sliding a dossier across the desk thick as a Bible. It detailed ops in the Middle East, cyber intrusions from Beijing, all threads leading back to domestic leaks, insiders selling secrets for a quick buck. I signed on, not for patriotism, but for the thrill of wielding words like weapons. 7 languages meant 7 alibis. 7 ways to slip through cracks the average Joe couldn't see. Back in Vegas, Dad played the proud papa in public, toasting my fancy government job at country club brunches, but privately, his eyes narrowed. Don't get too big for your britches, Maddie. This town's full of snakes, and you're still just a girl with a gift for gab. He wasn't wrong about the snakes. By 25, I was embedded in a joint task force, posing as a cultural liaison for NGOs while intercepting signals that could topple regimes or tank the Dow. That's when the first whispers hit, a mole in the network, feeding intel to foreign buyers. Paranoia rippled through briefings like bad coffee, accusations flying, polygraphs mandatory.
I est mine?
Of course. heart steady as a metronome. But the net tightened. Friends vanished into administrative leave, and Thorpe pulled me aside one night in a foggy bottom dive bar. The jukebox crooning Springsteen like a dirge. "Watch your six, Reynolds. This leak's got family ties." His words hung there, heavy as the bourbon we weren't drinking, and I laughed it off until the raid on a Carson City safe house turned up my father's fingerprints on the manifest. Betrayal doesn't hit like a thunderclap. It seeps in, slow and sour, like milk left out in the Vegas sun. I'd always known Dad's real estate was a front, flipping foreclosures to launder cash from who knows where, but espionage? That was a bridge too far. Even for him. The safe house was a ghost of a place, tucked in the industrial sprawl where slot machine factories rusted under the relentless sky. Feds swarmed it at dawn, black SUVs kicking up dust devils. And when the dust settled, they found servers humming with encrypted files, troop movements in Yemen, backdoor codes for NSA taps, all stamped with buyers from Tehran to Moscow. My name was woven through it, not as seller, but as unwitting courier. I'd translated docs for Dad years back. Innocent gigs, he called, helping out the old man, but now those files screamed accomplice. "You carried the poison, Maddie," Thorpe said over a secure line, his voice stripped bare. "We pulled you before they could pin it all on you. But your father's the architect." I drove through the night to confront him, the desert blurring into a black smear outside my rental's windows. Radio static hissing Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues like a soundtrack to my unraveling. Our McMansion glowed like a false promise on the hillside, infinity pool reflecting the city's garish lights. Dad was in the study, feet up on the mahogany desk that once belonged to some Prohibition-era bootlegger, swirling a tumbler of Macallan. "Maddie girl," he drawled, not even looking up from his ledger. "Heard you had a rough day. Government types can be such pricks." I slammed the dossier down, pages fanning out like a bad hand in poker, transcripts of his calls, wire transfers to offshore shells, my forged signatures on dummy contracts. His face didn't crack. Not at first. Just that slow, predatory smile, the one he'd flash at suckers signing over their life savings. "Family first, kid. You know that." What followed was a masterclass in gaslighting. American style, the deflection, the charm offensive, the pivot to victimhood. "I did it for us," he claimed, voice cracking just enough to sell the sob story. "Your mother's medical bills after the chemo, bank was gonna foreclose. And you? That fancy salary of yours couldn't touch the hole we were in." Lies stacked on half-truths. Mom's cancer had been real. The debt's crushing. But he'd been skimming long before, building his little empire on the bones of desperate immigrants funneled into his affordable housing scams. "The espionage? A natural escalation," he said, rubbing elbows with the right people at black-tie fundraisers for senators who looked the other way. I'd been his perfect cover, the polyglot daughter with embassy access, slipping docs into diplomatic pouches under the guise of cultural exchanges. "You were brilliant, Maddie." Never suspected a thing. And the worst part? He was right. I'd gambled my freedom on his word, carried his sins like a fool's errand, all while he mocked my languages as fancy bullshit. Rage doesn't burn clean. It festers, curdles into something cold and calculated. I didn't scream or slap him. That's for movies, not the messy arithmetic of real grudges. Instead, I nodded, poured myself a drink, and toasted to family first. By morning, I was back in D.C., feeding Thorpe just enough to keep the heat off me, coordinates for a dead drop in Laughlin, a burner phone's last ping. But I held back the kill shot. Dad's Cayman accounts. The senator's yacht parties, because vengeance isn't about justice, it's about the slow bleed. Thorpe promoted me to lead on the mole hunt. A 4-star pat on the back that tasted like ash. And I played the loyal asset, all while mapping my father's web in an encrypted journal app. Entries in Farsi to keep it ironclad. Months blurred into a haze of stakeouts and simulations. The Potomac's fog mirroring the murk in my head. Dad kept calling, casual check-ins laced with probes. How's the big leagues?
Sean?
Any heat coming my way?
Hello.
Mirror his drawl. Feed him scraps to keep him fat and complacent. Mom passed in the interim. A quiet fade in hospice that he blamed on stress from all this drama, as if his greed hadn't hastened her end. Her funeral was a farce, black limos snaking through red rock canyons. Eulogies from cronies who'd profited off her silence. I stood graveside in a pencil skirt and pumps, translating condolences from a Saudi attaché who'd once wired Dad a gift for a favorable zoning vote. The general's salute echoed in my mind, a talisman against the grief. I wasn't soft. I was sharpened, a blade forged in betrayal's fire. The first strike came subtle, a whisper in the wind. I leaked a tip to a freelance journalist in Reno, nothing damning, just enough to spook Dad's inner circle. A development deal collapsed overnight. Whispers of federal scrutiny rippling through the golf courses. He called furious. What the hell? Maddie? You stirring shit. I feigned concern. The dutiful daughter. Just looking out for you?
Dad.
Clean house before it burns. He bought it. Or pretended to. Doubling down on his charm. But I saw the tells, the extra locks on the safe. The sudden business trips to Mexico. My journal swelled, timelines cross-referenced in Swahili. Contingencies in Pashto. 7 languages. 7 layers of deception. Thorpe noticed my edge. Pulled me for coffee in a Langley cafe where the croissants tasted like cardboard. You're carrying ghosts. Reynolds. Let it go. I smiled. Sipped my Americano black. Ghosts don't haunt. General. They guide. As autumn chilled the capital's avenues, the web tightened. Dad's allies started peeling away, one by one, like scabs picked in the night. The senator from Nevada distanced himself after an anonymous tip about IRS audits. The Dubai sheik ghosted a wire transfer that left Dad scrambling. I orchestrated it from shadows. Bouncing signals through VPNs in Berlin. Alibis airtight as a diplomat's smile. Each fall was a knot untied, a debt collected in the currency of ruin. But vengeance is a jealous mistress. It demands totality. And Dad, ever the survivor, smelled the rot. He showed up unannounced one December eve, pounding on my Georgetown brownstone door as snow dusted the stoops like powdered sugar on a corpse. We need to talk. Maddie. For real this time. I let him in, the fire crackling in the grate like suppressed laughter. He looked diminished, gray at the temples. Paunch straining his Brooks Brothers shirt. Eyes darting like a cornered coyote. Bourbon breath preceded him. The same Macallan funk from our glory days. You're doing this, he accused.
No preamble.
Collapsing into the leather armchair that swallowed him whole. Turning my world to shit. Why? I poured us both drinks. Deliberate. The clink of ice a metronome to his unraveling. Because you made me your mule, Dad. Loaded me with your poison and laughed when I choked. He waved it off. The old deflection. Water under the bridge. Family sticks. Maddie. Blood's thicker. But his voice cracked. And there it was, the chink in the armor. The boy from the trailer park who'd clawed his way to this facsimile of success, only to poison the well for his own. We talked for hours. Or rather, he monologued, a torrent of justifications, half apologies laced with barbs. The debts, the dreams deferred, how my fancy words had blinded me to the real grind. I built this for you, he slurred, gesturing vaguely at the invisible empire crumbling around us. You think that general salute means jack? It's paper tigers.
Kid.
Real powers in the dirt. The deals that don't make headlines. I listened, translating his bluster into the 7 tongues of truth, regret in French, greed in Mandarin, fear in Arabic. By midnight, he was sobbing raw, ugly gulps that echoed off the exposed brick walls, begging for a way out. Help me, Maddie. Like old times. Translate a deal. Buy me time. Temptation flickered. A serpent's whisper. Forgive. Rebuild. Play the prodigal's return. But the warehouse floor's chill lingered in my bones. The ghost of that bullet he'd chambered for me. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. And I made my choice, not with words, but with a single call to Thorpe from the kitchen. Burner phone hot against my palm. The architect's here. Ready for extraction. Feds swarmed an hour later. Silent as sin. Cuffing him mid-sip as he blinked at the betrayal etched on my face. You little bitch, he spat. But there was no fire left. Just the wheeze of a man out of alibis. Thorpe arrived last, saluting me again in the doorway, snow melting on his epaulets. It's done, Reynolds. Clean. Dad's glare followed me to the car. A final curse in English, the only language we ever truly shared.
Clean?
That's the lie we tell ourselves in the aftermath. When the smoke clears and the mirrors crack. Dad's arrest made the papers, buried on page B12 of the Review Journal. A blurb about local developer ensnared in international intrigue. No mention of me. Of course, I was the ghost in the machine, the asset who delivered the package without a trace. Thorpe fast-tracked my clearance to a cushy analyst gig in Quantico, poring over intercepts in a windowless room that smelled of stale coffee and fresh ink. 7 languages kept me indispensable, decoding the world's grudges while I nursed my own. But vengeance, that American sacrament, doesn't end with cuffs, it metastasizes, demanding sequels in the dark. Dad lawyered up quick, top-shelf firm from LA, the kind that bills by the private jet. From my jailhouse visits, separated by plexiglass and the hum of fluorescent despair, he spun a narrative of redemption. Frame job. Maddie. Your Fed buddy's planting evidence. His eyes, bloodshot and wild, searched mine for the old loyalty. The daughter who'd once forged his signatures without question. I played along, mouthing platitudes through the receiver. Hang in there, Dad. We'll fight this, while my mind raced in Russian, plotting the next incision. The twist was his, during one call, voice dropping to a conspiratorial hiss. He confessed the half he'd hidden. It wasn't just debts.
Kid.
Your mom. She knew. Pushed me into it. Said the cancer was karma for my small-time sins, but I had to go big to save her. Lies. Mostly, Mom had been the moral compass, quietly siphoning what she could to charities for the evicted family's dad's scams displaced. But the seed took root. Doubt. That insidious translator of truth into maybe. Outside, the machine ground on. Protests erupted in D.C., anti-surveillance rallies clogging Pennsylvania Avenue. Signs waving, Big Brother speaks your language. Irony bit deep. My work fueled the beast they decried. Thorpe pulled strings to bury Dad's case in classified limbo. But leaks sprang eternal. A podcaster in Austin unearthed redacted docs, spinning yarns of deep state daughter complicity. Trolls swarmed my anonymized feeds, death threats in broken Spanish that I traced back to Dad's old crew. Paranoia became protocol, encrypted drives, burner drops, 7 aliases for 7 moods. I even toyed with quitting, vanishing to some cabin in the Adirondacks with a stack of novels and a Labrador's uncomplicated gaze. But blood calls, and Dad's was a siren song, equal parts love and loathing, the original American cocktail. The real unraveling hit during arraignment, a circus in federal court where the air reeked of cheap cologne and desperation.
Dad,
In ill-fitting orange, pled not guilty with a flourish, his lawyer decrying witch hunts in the desert. Then the prosecution dropped the bomb. Audio of him greenlighting a hit on a whistleblower, a mid-level analyst who'd sniffed too close. Make it look like cartel, his voice crackled through the speakers, casual as ordering takeout. The gallery gasped. I froze. The warehouse memory slamming back, the bullet that grazed my shoulder, chalked up to stray fire in the official report. He'd tried to erase me,
his own flesh,
to protect the throne. Thorpe, in the back row incognito, caught my eye, a nod, grim as granite. Justice. Served cold. But justice is a fickle judge, and Dad's trial became a Rorschach test for the nation's soul. Pundits on Fox called him a patriotic businessman squeezed by bureaucrats. MSNBC painted him a traitor profiteer preying on national scars. Social media fractured along fault lines, Free Frank Reynolds trending with memes of eagles weeping, countered by lock him up threads dissecting his victims, the Iraqi refugee family deported after his tip-off, the Wall Street coder ruined by his hacks. I watched from a safe house in Bethesda, wine glass trembling as I scrolled, each post a mirror to my complicity. Had I enabled him? Or redeemed us both by pulling the plug? The general checked in weekly, his calls a lifeline laced with subtext. You're the hero here, Reynolds. Don't let the noise rewrite it.
hero.
The words soured on my tongue. 7 ways to say fool. Vengeance evolved then, from scalpel to sledgehammer. I went rogue, off books, a linguistic phantom haunting Dad's empire's remnants. Posing as a buyer's agent in flawless Italian, I infiltrated his offshore holdings, siphoning funds to restitution accounts for his marks. A shell company in Luxembourg folded overnight. Courtesy of regulatory oversights, I whispered to compliant clerks in French. His cronies scattered like roaches, the senator suiciding in a scandal of his own. The sheik's yacht seized in a narco bust I anonymously fueled. Each takedown was a verse in my requiem, scored in the cadence of payback's poetry. Dad sensed it, his prison letters turning frantic. You're destroying everything I built for you. Call it off, Maddie, before you become the monster. Monster. There it was. The flip, the mocker becoming the mirrored. Spring thawed the Potomac's ice. And with it came the summons. A plea deal on the table. Dad flipping for leniency. Thorpe briefed me in a Herndon strip mall's back booth. Fluorescent buzz underscoring his words. He'll name names, Big Fish and Langley. Even. But it'll burn you too, Reynolds. Your translation's tied to his drops. The choice loomed, stark as a desert horizon. Let him sing. Risk exposure. Or silence the canary. Loyalty warred with liberation. 7 languages couldn't translate the heart's dialect. I drove to the visitor's center at dawn, the Virginia hills greening like false hope, and faced him through the glass one last time. Take the deal. Dad, I said, voice steady in English. Clear the ledger. His laugh was bitter. Broken. For you, or for them? The question hung unanswered as guards led him away. The deal broke open like a piñata at a funeral, names tumbling out, indictments flying. A deputy director resigned in disgrace. 2 contractors vanished to non-extradition havens. Dad got 25. Minimum security in Florence, Colorado, golf on weekends. If the feds felt generous. I testified, voice unwavering in the wood-paneled courtroom, detailing the web without implicating my soul. The gallery watched, divided, some nodding at the reckoning, others murmuring about family torn asunder by the state. Thorpe saluted me post-verdict, stars glinting under the Capitol dome. Proud of you, soldier. Soldier. Closer to truth than hero, but still a costume. Yet the twist lingered, a barb in the gut. Months later, sifting through Mom's attic in a purgative purge, I found her journals, leather-bound confessions in looping cursive. She'd known everything, not just suspected, forged the docs herself in my name, shielded Dad's worst to keep the family afloat. For Maddie, she wrote, pages yellowed with regret. To give her wings beyond this cage, wings clipped by love's blindfold. Was she the architect, or I, the avenger who felled the wrong tower? The general's salute mocked me now, a hollow honor in a hall of mirrors. Summer scorched the southwest, and I returned to Vegas, not for closure, but combustion. Dad's McMansion sat vacant, foreclosed and feral, windows boarded like blind eyes. I torched it at dusk, gasoline-soaked rags igniting in a whoosh that lit the valley like Judgment Day. Flames danced in 7 colors of fury, consuming ledgers, photos, the desk where he'd mocked my tongues. Sirens wailed distant. Too late, I watched from the ridge, wind whipping my coat. The city's lights a glittering apology. Arson? Maybe. Catharsis? Undeniably. As ash rained soft as snow, I whispered in Arabic to the night, it's done. But done is never done in the land of second acts. A postcard arrived weeks later. Postmarked Florence, Dad's scrawl. Terse. You burned the house. What's left to burn? Maddie? Yourself? Enclosed. A clipping, my name in a whistleblower expose. Courtesy of his plea bargain whispers. The net flipped. Now I was the mole. Hunted by the machine I'd fed. Thorpe called. Voice edged. Run. Reynolds. Or fight. 7 languages. 7 escapes. I chose the 8th, truth. Raw and unadorned. Truth is the ultimate betrayal. A blade that cuts both ways. And mine sliced deep as I fled D.C. Under cover of a nor'easter, wipers slapping rhythm against the downpour's drumbeat. The safe house in rural Maryland was a prefab bunker, stocked with MREs and a satellite uplink that hummed like a guilty conscience. Thorpe's last gift. Use it wisely.
Kid.
Words are your weapon. Don't let them turn on you. I didn't run blind. My journal, now a digital fortress in Icelandic servers, mapped the fallout. Dad's leaks twisted to paint me as the mastermind, his dutiful daughter running interference for the family firm. Pundits pivoted overnight, from deep state darling to silver-tongued serpent. Hashtags shifted, Hunt the Linguist trending with my blurred embassy photo. Trolls decoding my life in emoji hieroglyphs. Isolation sharpened the edges. Days bled into code-cracking marathons. Nights haunted by Mom's journals. Her cursive a ghost chorus. Forgive him, Maddie. We're all translators of survival. Survival. The word mocked as I monitored chatter. FBI wiretaps closing in. A task force dubbed Operation Babel after my polyglot curse. Dad's handiwork. No doubt. His prison whispers buying favors from guards with grudges. I countered in shadows. Seeding disinformation in Mandarin forums. False trails leading to a phantom handler in Shanghai. 7 languages bought time. But time's a debtor. And mine accrued interest in the form of doubt. Was this payback's apex? Or just the prelude to mutual destruction? The call came on a lightning-cracked night. Burner to burner. Dad's voice crackling through static like a bad connection to hell. You think you can ghost me?
Maddie?
I taught you better.
No preamble.
Just accusation laced with that old drawl, softened by supermax solitude. Your little bonfire?
Que?
But the real blaze is you, burning bridges till there's nowhere left to run. I gripped the phone, rain pattering the tin roof like impatient fingers. You started the fire,
Dad.
with that bullet in Reno. Silence stretched, then his chuckle, dry as desert bones. Self-defense.
Kid.
You were gonna rat. Family first, remember? Lies layered thick. But the hook sank. Mom's journals. She wrote the scripts. You were the patsy. Same as me. The revelation hit like vertigo. The room tilting on revelation's axis. Mom. The quiet enabler. Scripting the forgeries in her sickbed scrawl. Using my name as shield while Dad played the frontman. We did it to protect you, he claimed. Voice dipping to paternal croon. Your talent's too bright for our mess. But you dug too deep.
Maddie.
Now we're all ash. Pity flickered, unbidden. Unwelcome, before rage cauterized it. He wasn't confessing, he was conscripting, pulling me into his narrative of shared victimhood. Take the fall with me, he pressed. Plea out. We'll say it was her idea, grieving widow's madness. You walk. I get paroled. Blood's thicker. Right? The offer dangled. A serpent's apple in orange jumpsuit wrapping. Complicity for clemency. A family reunion in the ruins. I hung up without a word. The line dead as my resolve. Dawn brought decisions. Stark as black coffee. Thorpe's uplink pinged coordinates. A neutral meet in Pittsburgh. Old friends with resources for a new life. But trust erodes fast. And his salute now seemed suspect. Had he known about Mom? Fed me crumbs to hook the bigger fish? Paranoia scripted scenarios in Pashto, extraction or extermination. I chose the road, ditching the bunker for a Greyhound west, blending into the plaid-shirt masses rumbling through Appalachia. The bus smelled of diesel and despair. Passengers a cross-section of flyover forgotten, truckers nursing thermoses, moms with toddlers in tow, all fleeing or chasing the American dream's frayed hem. Pittsburgh met me with steel-gray skies and rivers that ran like veins of rust. A city of reinvention where I holed up in a no-tell motel off the boulevard. Fake ID in hand. Elena Vasquez. Translator for hire, I networked low-key, interpreting at union halls, eavesdropping on whispers of corporate espionage that echoed Dadson's. The gig paid in cash and connections. A Venezuelan fixer named Raul who moonlighted as a fence for hot data drives. You got the gift of tongues. Chica. He grinned over empanadas in a Lawrenceville dive. Salsa dripping like blood money. Use it to bite back. He didn't know the half, my bites were precision strikes, but his network opened doors, back channels to Dad's old marks. Now allies in the grudge economy. The counteroffensive launched from there. A symphony of sabotage scored in 7 keys. I posed as a journalist in flawless German, interviewing Dad's ex-partners for a tell-all that never saw print. Instead, transcripts funneled to prosecutors, unraveling his appeal. A Cayman banker, cornered in a Nassau casino, spilled on the slush funds I translated live, voice modulated through a voice changer app, anonymous as sin. Each revelation chipped at his armor. Prison scuttlebutt filtering back via Raoul's contacts, Dad raging in the yard, blaming that bitch daughter for every lockdown. Guilt gnawed intermittent, flashes of fishing trips in the Sierras. His rough hands tying lures while I babbled French conjugations. But memory's a selective linguist, omitting the mocks, the manipulations. Crisis crested in a Reno warehouse redux, not the same bloodied floor, but an adjacent unit leased under a shell, crates of server farms humming with pilfered Pentagon specs. Intel pegged it as Dad's last play, a final data dump to fund his escape, brokered by a rogue admiral with stars tarnished by scandal.
Infiltrated solo.
Black turtleneck and gloves, heart-pounding a tattoo in the stale air. Guards patrolled lazy, distracted by a basketball game crackling on a portable radio, Lakers versus Warriors. The roar, ironic counterpoint to my stealth. 7 languages whispered alibis if caught, lost tourist in Japanese, maintenance in Spanish. But no need, I jacked the mainframe, downloading terabytes in a frenzy of keystrokes, Symantec firewalls crumbling under custom scripts I'd coded in lonely nights. The download chimed complete just as boots echoed, heavy, purposeful. Admiral Harlan Thorpe, no less. 4 stars subdued under a trench coat, flanked by 2 stone-faced suits. Reynolds, he said. No salute this time. Just a sigh heavy as indictment. Knew you'd come crawling back. The pieces snapped, his recruitment a long con. Using my access to bait Dad's traps. Mom's forgeries the perfect provenance. Your old man's been singing since Pittsburgh, he continued. Voice clinical as a debrief. Plea includes you, accessory after the fact. But walk away now. And we forget the warehouse fire. Betrayal's echo chamber. Dad flipping not just for leniency, but to drag me under. Mom's ghost the glue binding our noose. Fight or flight forked sharp, I chose the third path, truth's detonation. Play the files, I challenged, nodding to the rig. Thorpe's brow furrowed. But curiosity won. He triggered playback. My download spilled, not just Dad's dumps, but Thorpe's own ledgers, kickbacks from defense contractors. Salutes bought with blood money. The Admiral's face drained to putty as evidence mounted, emails in coded English. Transfers masked as consulting fees. You are the mole, I accused. Voice steady in the tongue of revelation. Dad, your patsy. Me the lore. He lunged, but I was faster, pepper spray bloom, a knee to the gut. 7 languages cursing his lineage in Arabic as I bolted for the loading dock. Sirens wailed prelude to chaos. I vanished into the night, stealing a pickup from the lot. Tires screeching neon trails across the basin. The drive south was delirium. Radio scanning ghost signals. News breaks on federal bust in Reno. No names yet. My phone buzzed anonymous. Raoul. Forwarding a clip from CNN. Thorpe in cuffs. Stars stripped like fallen leaves. Dad's name surfaced too. Co-conspirator. Not confessor. His plea unraveling as the real architect emerged. Mom's journals. I'd mailed copies to the Times pre-raid, timed like a dead man switch. The twist? She hadn't shielded us. She'd documented everything. Breadcrumbs for the day, we'd need them. For Maddie, indeed not wings, but a map out of the maze. Dawn crested over the Sierras, gold on granite. As I ditched the truck at a trailhead, backpack light with essentials, passport in Portuguese, cash in euros, journal encrypted eternal. A burner call to a contact in Vancouver, ex-NSA. Now off-grid, secured passage north. Vengeance's afterglow faded to ash. What remained was reinvention. The American creed. Dad would rot. Thorpe disgraced. Mom vindicated in ink. But the cost? A family fractured beyond tongues. A soul scarred in 7 shades of gray. I hiked into the pines, breath sinking with the wind's whisper.
No salute awaited.
No mockeries, just the vast, unforgiving sky. And in that silence, I translated my own future, survivor, not avenger. Or so I told myself, as the border loomed. Borders are illusions, lines drawn in sand that 7 languages can erase. But freedom's weight pressed heavy as I crossed into Canada under a drizzling Vancouver sky. The Rockies' shadow a farewell from the state's sprawling grasp. Elena Vasquez faded into Mira Kowalski, Polish émigré with a backstory of Warsaw winters and Ottawa aspirations, securing a flat in Kitsilano overlooking the harbor where ferries cut wakes like sighs of escape. The contact delivered, a laptop rigged for dark web dips. Contacts in the expat underworld who paid premium for discreet translations, corporate espionage light. No blood on the bylaws. Life settled into rhythm. A staccato of cafe shifts and midnight decodings. The Pacific's roar drowning the ghosts that nipped at my heels. News filtered north like contraband. Thorpe's court-martial a spectacle. Stars revoked in a ceremony as somber as a state funeral. His testimony a torrent implicating half the brass in a pay-for-play pipeline. Dad's name wove through it, not as kingpin, but cog, the desperate developer funneled by higher hands, his leaks a symptom of systemic rot. Sentencing came swift, life without. The judge's gavel cracking like the warehouse shot that birthed this odyssey.
No appeals.
No postcards, silence from Florence. A void I filled with imagined rages. His Scotch dreams curdling to regret. Mom's journals, splashed across redacted leaks, painted her the unlikely oracle, grieving widow turned gadfly. Her cursive canonized in op-eds debating the cost of complicity in the security state. Feminists hailed her, conservatives cried hoax. I read it all in incognito tabs. Heart a bilingual knot, pride for her pen, sorrow for the son she'd raised in shadows. Vengeance's echo faded, but scars etch eternal. And mine flared when Raul surfaced, an email from a tour relay. His Venezuelan lilt digitized. Hermana. The machine grinds slow but fine. Your father's crew?
Dust.
But whispers say you're wanted. Interpol red notice. Buried under, pending extradition. Wanted. The word twisted like a bad translation, pulling me from the duvet where I'd burrowed against November's chill. Interpol? Thorpe's parting gift. No doubt, framed files, painting me the ghost who ghosted. Accomplice in his admiralty. I cross-checked via Polish proxies. Nothing overt. But flags on financial pings. A shadow docket in Langley.
Paranoia scripted flights in Farsi. Vanish deeper.
Or confront the narrative. Winter clamped Vancouver in ice. The harbor freezing into fractals that mirrored my mind's mosaic. I took a lover, Finn. A lanky Finn with a beard like Bruegel and eyes that saw through bullshit, to ground the drift. He was a coder for green tech startups. Nights spent debugging algorithms while I unraveled Mandarin contracts for offshore wind farms. You're running from something, he murmured one aurora-lit evening. fingers tracing my collarbone like Braille. Or toward it. I laughed it off in Swedish. A language of fjords and restraint. But truth seeped toward absolution. Perhaps. Or just the next horizon. Finn knew none of it. The salutes. The bullets. The bonfire's glow. But his steadiness translated the unspoken. A balm for betrayal's burn. The confrontation brewed in spring's thaw. A package arriving unmarked. Dad's effects from the estate sale. A cardboard crate heavy with relics. Inside. The mahogany desk's scorched drawer, miraculously salvaged, yielded a hidden compartment. Letters. Bundled in twine. Mom's hand to his. Dated pre-cancer. Frank. End the games, one pleaded. Maddie's light. Don't eclipse it. Others. Fiercer. Blueprints for the espionage pivot. Her signatures forging the path he'd walked. The twist knifed deep, not just enabler, but instigator. Mom's desperation birthing the beast to fund experimental trials abroad, untouchable by U.S. insurers. For us all, she wrote. Or we'll lose everything. Everything. The word encompassed the McMansion's facade. Dad's mocks masking his own linguistic poverty. My 7 tongues the unintended inheritance. Rage recycled. Not at them. But the machine, the American dream's dark undercarriage. Where families fracture on altars of ambition. I burned the letters in the harbor's salt wind. Ashes scattering like confetti at a wake.
Finn watched.
Silent. Then pulled me close. Write your own ending. Mira. Ending. The prompt ignited a pivot, not flight, but fight. From afar. I funneled leaks through anonymous drops, Thorpe's full ledger to wiki embeds. Dad's confessions recast as coerced cant. 7 languages amplified the chorus, Arabic op-eds in Al Jazeera. French exposés in Le Monde, stirring global scrutiny on the linguist scandal, a byline that danced around my ghost. Summer bloomed riotous. Vancouver streets alive with pride floats and fusion food trucks. A cacophony of reinvention. Finn proposed over dim sum. Rings simple as a promise. And I said yes in English, raw. Unadorned. But joy's fragile. And fate's a prankster, a knock at midnight. RSMP in crisp blues. Badges glinting like false stars. Mira Kowalski? We need to talk. Heart slamming. I complied, station house sterile as a scalpel. Coffee bitter as hindsight. Not arrest, but inquiry, U.S. Extradition request. Material witness in Thorpe's appeals. Dad's doing his final flip from cell block poker games. Trading my head for house arrest. The interrogation stretched dawnward. Detectives probing gentle in bilingual tag team. Your father's cooperating fully. MS. Reynolds. Says you orchestrated the lot for revenge. Lies layered. But the hook evidence. My journal's echoes in seized drives. Translations twisted to treason. Finn bailed me out. Face thunderous. But the die cast, extradition hearing in 48. Vancouver's courts away station to Vegas chains. I lawyered up via Raoul's network. A shark from Toronto with a Rolodex of recusals. But doubt not. Fight and fray. Or fold into family farce. The hearing convened in a marbled hall overlooking the strait. Gulls wheeling like witnesses. Dad testified remote. Pixelated on screens. Orange glow haloing his gaunt frame. She hated me. Your Honor, he croaked. Eyes locking mine through the feed. Burned our home. Leaked my life. It's her reckoning. Not mine. The gallery murmured. Expats. Journalists. a smattering of U.S. suits with government plates. My lawyer countered fierce, fabricated files, coerced confessions, Mom's journals as exoneration. But the judge, a stern Quebecois with a Union Jack pin, leaned toward the scales. Blood speaks. Ms. Reynolds. And yours calls south. Twist turned on a dime, Finn, bursting in with a tablet clutched like Excalibur. Piping live feeds from D.C. Thorpe's suicide in custody. A final confession, video uploaded hours prior. The daughter knew nothing, he rasped on grainy cell cam. Stars long gone. Reynolds was bait. Like her old man. The system's the traitor. Chaos erupted. Reporters scrambling. The bench adjourning in recess. Dad's image froze mid-snarl. His flip flayed public. Extradition denied. The hall emptied to shouts. Finn's hand finding mine amid the scrum. Aftermath washed clean. Dad remanded full term. His whispers worthless wind. I stayed Mira. Wedding vows exchanged on a ferry deck under auroral skies. Finn's kiss a translation of tomorrow. 7 languages suffice no more. English held the heart's core. Vengeance? A closed book. By or tragic, readers to debate. Hero's triumph. Or enabler's echo. The general's salute lingered. A specter saluting survival. In the end, blood thins, but words endure. And mine? They built bridges, not bombs. Or so I choose to believe. As the harbor lights flicker on, promising partitions redrawn.